Hey, what's up, everybody? So coming to you today with another 2020 year-end top 10. I'm working my way down. I believe I got 6 divisions left now. And today I'm discussing the 154-pound super welterweight division. This one, again, true boxing. If you can like this and subscribe to my channel, I'd really, really appreciate it. Just hit the little thumbs up button and hit subscribe. If you like the channel and you want to get in-depth information on all things boxing. So hit me up. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's jump into the top 10. Now, 154 is a fun division because out of the top 10 fighters, 9 of them are with the PBC. So there's a lot of makeable fights here, and there's some good fighters. So this division is a division that I think is on the rise. It's a young division that I really enjoyed. So let's jump into and look at the couple guys that dropped out from last year's top 10. The first of which is former world title challenger Jermell Charlo. Charlo went 0-1 in 2020. He drops out because of a loss to Eriksen Lubin as he fought to become the WBC's mandatory #1 contender. It was a fight that was supposed to happen in 2019. It was kind of a lackluster fight. Charlo didn't really seem like he was into it and going for it, you know, and that was a poor performance, and that's kind of the performance we got when he fought Lara also. So, you know, not really into, you know, wasn't really into the way he fought. I didn't feel like he went for it and tried to become, you know, one of the top guys at 154. So he drops out. He previously was number 8, and he's not ranked by any of the governing bodies. So not sure what he's going to do next at 33. Also dropping out is French contender, 33-year-old Michel Soro. Soro just didn't fight. He was number 10 coming in. He just didn't fight in 2020, and other guys moved ahead of him. You know, he's the WBA gold champion. Not sure if he's going to get a crack at Lara. I think that's possible. But I know, you know, Lara's in the running for the fight with Jermell Charlo. So we got to wait and see. But I don't know if France is allowing these guys to travel also. But yeah, Michel Soro dropped out because of that. He's still ranked, or like I said, he's the WBA gold champion, which makes him basically one of the top contenders over there. But, you know, he wasn't ordered to do anything in 2020, and I'm not sure what the corrupt WBA is going to do for him next, so we'll see. All right, so let's jump into the top 10 now. The new top 10, we start with number 10, the undefeated Sebastian Fondura, the freak, or super freak if you want to call him that. This guy stands at 6'5½", and he fights at 154 pounds, and he is mean. He enters the top 10 coming off of a 3-0 2020. He beat some nobody by a decision in February, and then in August destroyed Nathaniel Gallimore, who had never been knocked out. He's kind of a gatekeeper at 154, was Gallimore. He's a guy that beat Jason Rosario, knocked him out, and again, never suffered a knockout loss, and Fondura whipped his ass and knocked him out in the 6th round impressively. And, you know, that was just huge. And then on the Danny Garcia Errol Spence undercard, he took on former world title challenger Habib Ahmed, who fought for a world title at 168 pounds. And another guy, he was a replacement opponent. I thought he might have a little bit of issues because of that. And he whipped his ass too, stopped him in 2 rounds. So Fondura's on the rise. I think he's a guy that, you know, he fights for the PBC. He's probably going to be avoided a little bit, but he's just got to work himself up the rankings. He's only 23 years old, so he's got time to work his way up. They can't avoid him forever. He's a WBA's number 7 contender. He's 16-0 with 1 draw and 11 knockouts, and he is getting better and better, so make sure you check him out when he fights again on the PBC. And hopefully it's against a final eliminator, and hopefully it's against a top 10 fighter, or at least somebody we know, you know, that's still banging around 154. Next at number 9, and staying at number 9 from last year, is former world title challenger Eriksen Lubin. Lubin entered the year, you know, trying to get in line for a shot at a world title. He had a WBC final eliminator lined up all year, and in September, the fight finally came off, and he got the main event on Showtime again. That's a back-to-back fights he's gotten that. And he took on Jermell Charlo, another, you know, tricky boxer who was trying to make a name for himself. So, you know, gosh, Lubin had the opportunity to really take his next step forward. He did that, but he did it with a lackluster performance, getting a 12-round decision over Gaucher, but it was really kind of a boring and dull fight. Now, he's a WBC's #1 contender. I know Gaucher needed to mix it up too, but it didn't seem like Lubin was hell-bent on going for it in this fight and attacking. And I think that was a mistake because he didn't look great. But nonetheless, he is fighting for the WBC title next, and I don't think it's going to be against Jermell Charlo. I think Charlo's going to end up giving up that belt, and then Lubin is going to fight either the #2 contender, which is Sergio Garcia, I believe, or he's going to have to fight one of the other guys, the WBC #3 or 4, which are names right now. I think Jrock's one of those. You know, I know Jrock's one of them. I think Tony Harrison's in that mix. So, you know, we definitely could be seeing Eriksen Lubin fighting somebody decent for a world title next, and I think Lubin's going to crown himself as a world champion and take his next step forward. I just hope it's in more impressive fashion like he had been doing prior to the kind of lackluster performance we saw in 2020 against Gaucher, but we'll see. Next at #8, dropping one spot from #7, is the WBO champion Patrick Teixeira. Teixeira did not fight in 2020. Part of that was he had a fight with Brian Castano, scratched due to the coronavirus, and that they were supposed to fight in April on DAZN. That fight got scratched. So then he was supposed to fight, or he was talking about fighting other people, but he had the mandatory fight with Castano that he had to deal with. And, you know, finally the WBA ordered it, and the two sides agreed, but they are going to be coming together in February. So he has a big opportunity February 13th against Brian Castano. A win over Castano puts Teixeira in the top 5, which I do think is possible, but to be honest, I'm picking Castano in the fight, but I definitely think Teixeira's got a real chance of pulling off the win here, and we just got to see what happens. You know, this is a good fight to possibly Golden Boy and PBC working together going forward, because Teixeira is the only guy with Golden Boy fighting at 154 or any other guy that's in the top 10 outside of the PBC. So this is the only promotion that has somebody in the top 10, you know, for any other promotion other than the PBC. So Teixeira winning is very, very important for somebody else to have an impact at 154. And Teixeira has options too. So I really hope he gets the win here. I mean, I'd like to see him get the win. I really don't care who wins. I think it could go either way. But that's a big fight February 13th on DAZN. I can't wait to see it. And there's also Joseph Diaz and Shavkat Rakhimov that night as well. That's a very good card coming up on February 13th. Don't miss it. Teixeira Castano. Okay, next at #6, he drops 5 spots from #1, is the former unified champion Julian Jrock Williams. He fought only once in 2020 in January. He ended up taking on Jason Rosario, and he was looking at bigger fights like with Charlo in the future or a rematch with Hurd, and it cost him in this fight. He ran into Rosario, who hits hard, and definitely overlooked him, and Rosario kicked his ass and stopped him in only 5 rounds. Jrock took the rest of the year off. We don't know when he's coming back yet. I know he's talking about it. He's also mentioned after, you know, making another run, maybe 2 more fights at 154, he's going to move up to 160. We'll see what he does in 2020. He's a WBA's #3 contender. I know he's ranked in the WBC pretty decent. So he might have an opportunity to fight for the vacant WBC title, maybe against Eriksen Lubin. But Jrock's definitely going to have to regroup and see how good he really is. If I was Jrock, I would challenge Jason Rosario in a rematch just to let everybody know who the better man is. But I don't know if he does that. I don't know if he wants to take that chance. So we'll see. Next at #5 is the former unified champion, Jason Rosario. He was not ranked coming into 2020, but he got the biggest win of his career in January when he knocked out Jrock Williams and became the unified champ. He threw himself right at the top of a wide open division, and really he got a golden opportunity in September to unify more belts against Jermell Charlo, but I didn't think he was going to stand a chance against Charlo, to be honest. I thought he had a puncher's chance, but I really believed Charlo would be on the fight. It was a huge card. They got top billing in it in the main event, and Charlo took advantage of that. He completely broke down Jason Rosario, broke him down so much and beat him up to where he stopped him with a hard jab to the body in the 8th round. Impressive performance out of Charlo. Tough loss for Rosario. Tough loss, but you know what? I don't think anybody was expecting him really to win that fight. And he definitely earned himself a big future accolade, becoming a former champion, a former unified champion. He's the guy everybody's going to want to fight now because he's a former champ. So he gave himself a career now. But let's see if he can bounce back in and prove that he's completely legit, you know? We'll see what happens. You know, I think he'd be willing to fight pretty much anybody. He's tied with the PBC, so he's going to have opportunities to redeem that loss and to prove that he belongs in the top 5. So we'll see what happens in 2021 for him. Rosario is ranked number 4 by the PBC, so maybe he could get a shot at Eriksen Lubin if the number 2 and 3 contenders pass it up for the vacant WBC title. Maybe he gets another crack at a world championship next. It is possible. I wouldn't be surprised, so we'll see. Okay, next at number 4 is the undefeated Brian Castano. Castano has the biggest fight of his career coming up. You know, our biggest opportunity, or one of the biggest opportunities, he fought Eriksen Lara in 2019 and fought him to a draw. That was the biggest fight of his career. You know, he was the regular champion. He ended up giving that belt up, that distinction up, and you know, now he was supposed to fight Patrick Teixeira in April of last year. Fight didn't come off due to the coronavirus, backed it off. Then these guys just didn't do anything the rest of the year, and Castano ended up not fighting at all. But he has a golden opportunity February 13th on DAZN when he fights Teixeira for the WBO title. Personally, I think he's going to win the fight. Neither one of these guys have fought since November of 2019, so there shouldn't be any issue with any, you know, with rust. These guys have both been out of action the same amount of time. So I'm picking Castano to win that fight. I'm calling for a late stoppage. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to the scorecards. I do think Teixeira is a very live underdog, though, and he's a champ right now. So we'll see what happens. But Castano definitely could throw himself into the top 3, maybe the top 2, with a big-time win over Patrick Teixeira. We'll see what happens. Next at number 3 now, and he, oh yeah, Castano moved up 1 spot from number 5, by the way. Next at number 3, he was tied for 3 last year, is a WBA regular champion, Eris Lara. Lara really didn't do much this past year. He ended up fighting, who was it? He ended up taking on some unknown guy named Greg Vanetti in September and got a kind of a boring, lackluster 12-round decision. You know, he didn't do much. Outboxed him, outclassed him, but it wasn't a dominant performance. He didn't seem keen on going for the knockout. He had been out of action for a year. So kind of a regular win, but he is in talks to fight Jermell Charlo. He was calling out Charlo. He says he offered to fight with a rematch with Hurd, and Hurd passed on it. I don't know why he would, but hey, it is what it is. But Lara's open to facing anybody, and now there's, you know, Lara does not seem unbeatable and like he's going to be that much of a problem. I do think he's a threat for sure to anybody, but he does seem beatable, and I think more guys are going to take risks this year, and they should, because he's 37 now. He's not the same fighter he used to be. He's still very good, but he's not the fighter he used to be, and I think guys need to take a risk and go after him. He does hold a secondary piece of a world title, so, but to be honest, I think Jermell Charlo is going to fight him. I'm going to call it right now. I think Charlo thinks that fight makes sense, and I think he's going to go after it. So we'll see what happens, but Lara, I think he's going to get a pretty decent fight in 2021. And I think he couldn't, if he doesn't get Charlo, I think Hurd's sitting there. And I also think Brian Castano might not be completely opposed to that fight either. So we'll see. But Hurd, you know, Lara, Castano, and Jermell Charlo might be making a dance around each other if Castano wins that world title. It's going to be a very interesting year to see if we can see Castano possibly get the shot at Charlo. So we'll see. Okay, next at number 2 now And he previously was number 2. And this is going to cause some controversy, but it's former unified champion Jarrett Hurd. People are going to say, well, why do you have Hurd at number 2 when he lost to Jrock Williams? You know, and Jrock lost. Well, that's exactly why. Because, in my opinion, Jrock is a one-trick pony. He didn't really do much prior to the win over Hurd. And I think Hurd was overlooking him for sure. And he got a win. He fought the fight of his life. He got the win. But Hurd's resume, man, I mean, is strong. Tony Harrison, knockout. Austin Trout, knockout. Eris Landi, Lara, when they were the 2 best fighters and he came in the underdog to unified belts, he beat him, you know? And that was just in the past couple years for Jarrett Hurd. So, you know, I don't think it's fair to write him off so much, especially when you had Williams, who was a one-trick pony, got upset by a guy who didn't belong there, and then that guy, Rosario, got knocked out himself. So, really, nobody has solidified himself, but Jarrett Hurd's resume is why I retain him at the number 2 spot. And I think Hurd's going to come out this year and prove it. He should get a shot, but he might get avoided enough. He's a WBA's number 2 contender. I think he needs to go take the fights that he can take. If guys are willing to fight him, take it, but I think 160's prime for Jarrett Hurd to move up now. Canelo's gone. There's other guys that are going to go chase him. 160 middleweight, the prestige of being the middleweight champion. Make your move up, man, if nobody wants to fight you, Jarrett. You're too good. You're 30 years old now. You're still, in my opinion, in your prime. Try to get the fight with Charlo if you can. Try to get one of these other PBC guys in the ring. If not, take a great opportunity at 160 if it's there. So, Jarrett Hurd, hopefully he gets back in the mix. I still think he can beat anybody, including Charlo at 154. But we got to wait and see what happens. See if he gets that opportunity. But the final fighter, the number 1 fighter at 154 pounds, he finally came up and grabbed the top spot. He previously was number 3, is Jermell Charlo, the unified WBC, WBA, and IBF world champion. He got a golden opportunity in 2020. You know, he was looking at Jrock, which would have been huge, but Jason Rosario upset Jrock, and you know, he came in a heavy favorite. Well, not a heavy favorite, but a sizable favorite over Rosario. They attempted to unify 3 of the 4 belts. And he went out there and he basically beat Rosario's ass. You can argue this was a bigger win than the win over Tony Harrison. It definitely was one of the top 2 of his career, for sure. But, man, he broke down this guy and really beat him up and hit him in the midsection and stopped him in that 7th round, or I mean in the 8th round, and retained, and became the unified world champion. So big time win right there for Charlo. Really secured number 1. Hey guys, I'm gonna go back real quick. Tony Harrison is number 7, and I skipped over him. Harrison, former champ, previously was number 6, drops the spot, didn't fight at all in 2020. I think his dad passed away. I think it might have been from Corona. I'm not 100% of that story, but yeah. Harrison drops out. He's a WBC's number 3 contender, though, and he could fight for the vacant belt against Eriksen Lubin next, so make sure you're paying attention to that. Back to Charlo at number 1, and I apologize for going back right there, but Charlo, yeah, I like Charlo. I like him a lot. I mean, I like that he took over the number 1 spot, and he's hungry. I'm not a big fan of his personality and all the shit talk, but he's there, and he's looked, and you know what, and I am going to give him even more props if he goes after Lara next, because I still think Lara is a threat to people. But go get that name on your resume, beat him, and then see who's remaining in the second half of the year. I still would love to see Charlo and Hurd, but if Charlo's brother moves up to 160, 168 this year, then I think Jermell needs to move up to 160, and I think that's something that they're lobbying to possibly do, so he gets a direct shot at a world title. But, you know, obviously, Jermell wants to make sure he gets a good fight at 168 before he gives up his world title at 160. I'm leaning towards that doesn't happen next. I think Charlo's going to give up his WBC title, and Lubin's going to fight for it, and then he's going to focus on fighting Eriksen Lara or somebody else. And then second half of the year could be Brian Castano if Castano's the WBO champion. we just got to wait and see. But that's it. That's a top 10 for the 154-pound super welterweight division. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video, guys. Give me the thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.